There is no ball dropping in Times Square. There is no singing of Auld Lang Syne. But it is the start of the new year in the National Football League. Most of it in 2026, a little bit of it in 2027. And that's where we start and go on this edition of Defending the Kingdom, examining free agency and more with a two special guests. And it's all brought to you by Ticketmaster. And so here we go.
Mahomes in the pocket. He'll step up. He'll scramble 10. 5. Mahomes. Diving touchdown. Kansas City.
Happy New Year, everybody. I'm Mitch Holthus, voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, along with senior team reporter Matt McMullen. It is the start of a new year.
And we're through the legal tampering period when all the stuff goes off on Twitter and everyone thinks it's official. And then the Max Crosby deal gets nixed. That's exactly what we were talking about. The things aren't official until pen hits paper. You never know.
Ellie's not here, nor is my wife Tammy, your wife Ellie, but it is Happy New Year.
Yes.
And there we go.
And things are official.
That's official now with the confetti dropping on our head, and we hope the league year before it's completely over, but almost over, is another drop of confetti in Super Bowl 61. But that's where this starts. But yes, I mean, let's talk about that first, because in my brief 33 years in the National Football League, this one is right up there near the top of like what just happened. But it is a sign of we're so quick for agents to get news out. They want to show that they did their deal for their guy, or insiders taking the agent's information and going with it in social media primarily, but even that leads to then traditional media or in linear media. But wait a minute. Hold the fort, because that deal now, think of the 2 days and things that happen, not just with the Raiders and Ravens. Start there. Of all of the things that they did as a ripple effect from that would-be trade of Max Crosby to the Ravens, and what other teams did strategically based upon that, and then, whoops, nope, didn't happen. Just Men in Black, the old movie, like it evaporated, so no Max Crosby trade. This is a deal now. This is a real thing that the league is going to have to deal with.
Yeah, because then 12 hours later, the Ravens signed Trey Hendrickson. I mean, that's a big domino. It changed everything. You know, we saw this in years past. It happened with, ironically, the Raiders and Roger Saffold a handful of years ago, where it was reported that he signed a deal and then there was a physical issue and they nixed it. Remember Zadarius Smith a few years ago? Ironically, was reported to sign with the Ravens and then decided, actually, no, I don't want to sign with you, and went to the Vikings, I think.
Yeah,
so you never know. Like, in that little window, when things are being reported, I think it's kind of dangerous how they're reported as fact and, like, done deal. And 95% of the time it is a done deal, but not always.
Yeah, but it's that 5% that, I mean, this one's even bigger than the ones you mentioned, I think.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Because of the ripple effect.
Yes.
And you can have conspiracy theorists now that can say, well, wait a minute, now, this is a way of us getting Trey Hendrickson without making a trade and having a guy coming off an injury. I mean, but then have the rest of the league adjust. So it's really peculiar at the least, somewhat troubling maybe at the most for the league, in that to calm all this down and to get in the legal tamping period. To me, the league is great. It's brilliant. That to me is one of the dumbest things in professional sports.
Because, like,
okay?
what are we doing?
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
Because then, you know, you and I, like we talked about on last week's episode, we put that episode out and the whole Trent McDuffie thing broke. We can't discuss that at all, you know, until today.
And it came out seconds after we posted.
I'm like, yep, that's about right.
But it's like posting the speed limit at 70 miles an hour, but for 6 hours, you get to go as fast as you want, and then we're going to see who's got the fastest car. Well, people wreck and die. I mean, it's kind of strange. But it's where we're at. But the Chiefs, let's start here with the Happy New Year being your Happy New Year present, is that the Chiefs have been so very active. And this harkens to the infrastructure that's in place here with Brett Veach and his staff, both on the pro side, which we're going to hear from Tim Terry later in this episode. And by the way, we will have an exclusive interview that Matt and I will do with Kenneth Walker III.
Yeah.
The Super Bowl 60 MVP, who's now running back for wait a minute, did you think I'd be saying this? Or
No, we were talking about it off air just now. Like, I didn't think we'd have an interview with Kenneth Walker III
as the
on this
running
week's
back
podcast last week
of the Kansas City Chiefs. So we're excited to have that. You want to hang around for that, but we'll also have Tim on. But it's just a sign of one thing I've always appreciated since Andy Reid came here, and first with John Dorsey and then with Brett Veach. It's about today, but not just about today. It's about tomorrow, but it's not just about tomorrow. It's about both. And I think every one of these moves that we have seen, the McDuffie trade, so painful to lose him, but to get the motherload of picks in return, which completely changes the strategy for this draft for the Kansas City Chiefs to have now 4 picks in the top 75. That'll be later episodes. But that trade, to get that done, and then to get some really good free agents. Alohi Gilman's a really good player. I mean, I've said I'm prepared for him every time we play the Chargers, thinking that guy's a good player. Got to deal with that. In Tonga, you look at Tonga, immediately Austin Woodard, our friend, sends the video of him just blowing up the whole Denver offensive line in the AFC Championship game. But that's a nice move. And then for Travis Kelce to come back. So it's about today, but it's not just about today. It's about tomorrow with these moves.
Yeah, I think it's worth kind of chatting about all these things if you're in.
Yeah, let's go.
And we could start with the McDuffie trade. It's bittersweet because Trent McDuffie is obviously one of the best players in football. He's also an incredible person, incredible person. I remember at Draft Fest when he flew in back in 2022, we met him for the first time. And the first thing he ever said to me when he heard that I was one of our media guys, he said, "I'm here to make your life easier." I'm like, what? Excuse me? You can be as mean to me as you want. I don't care. You can be whatever you want to be, man. And he didn't want to be a bad guy. He wanted to be just the best guy ever. So, and he was always that way during his time here. Trent is the best.
And I'll share this with a couple stories. One, his mom was awesome. And is awesome. And they just have gone through so much with the loss of his brother. But he came to Smith Center. You know, every year I have the fundraising event for the Home on the Range cabin and fly Chiefs guys in there. He came and acted. He's from L.A. This is a rural Kansas community, right in the middle of everything.
I like that.
Middle of the U.S., by the way, 48 states. But it's like he lived there all his life. And he was so good with everyone that there was a kid on the high school football team that the next fall after that spring event texted me and said, "Do you think Trent would ask this girl to homecoming for me because she's really awesome? And I think that would do it." I'm like, "No, dude, I'm not going to have Trent McDuffie ask the girl for homecoming because what she'll do is go to homecoming with him."
Yeah.
But the point is, that's the kind of individual he is. I wish him the best. We say goodbye to these guys. We'll hug them at reunions.
Yeah.
But that's where we're at. But yeah.
Another story, we could do a whole podcast on Trent
Trent
McDuffie stories.
Rams, you're getting a really good player and a guy.
He did an event at the Kansas City Zoo and Aquarium, and Ellie works at the zoo in their marketing department. And she did not tell him when he was there that she was my wife. She just was a person at the zoo, just to see kind of how he was, right? She does that sometimes. And first of all, the event he was doing at the zoo was he was hanging out with families of kids who are in hospice.
Yeah.
Can you even begin to think about that or imagine that? That's what he wanted to do with this time, is hang out with families of kids in hospice to create a memory for them, for the parents.
Yeah.
And first of all, that's incredible. But the fact that he was so cool to Ellie, he clearly cared so much about this event. And then at the very end, she's like, "Oh, by the way, Matt says hi." And he's like, "What? Why didn't you lead with that?" But anyway, it told me, if I didn't already know, it told me everything I ever need to know about Trent. Just an incredible person. I'm so happy for him. He deserves it. And he's going to have a great career in L.A. Going to be rooting for him when we're not playing the Rams.
And we play him this year.
Yeah, of course we do. Yeah, we'll see him. And Jalen Watson. And Jalen's a great guy as well and a great player. But if we're looking at the football aspect of it, I wrote an article about this, and I feel really strongly about it. We love Trent, and he helped this team win 2 Super Bowls, get to 3 of them. That's his legacy in Kansas City. His legacy actually extends because now through this trade, we have the opportunity to set ourselves up for another run of success. And to me, it's a lot like the Tyreek Hill trade, where you're saying goodbye to a really good player in the prime of his career. But the positive on our side is that we're getting these picks in return. The 3rd round pick next year is really nice too. We'll be talking about this for over a year now, but to go from having, I think, 5 picks in the draft to, when you couple the McDuffie trade with the comp pick we got in the 5th round, now 9 picks in this draft. And like you said, a lot of high picks in the first couple days. Just a big deal. Amazing opportunity. We got to hit on these picks, though.
Yeah, and we can excited about the free agents that we've picked up and the re-signings. Tyquan Thornton comes to mind. To get him signed. Somebody who's been inside the fort as well as the outside additions. But then you have to deal with the guys you lose. And basically, we said goodbye to the class of 22 on a couple of different defending the kingdoms, but now it really has come to that way because that group is now pretty much all gone.
Yeah.
George Karloftis and what?
And Nazi.
Nazi, that's it. 2 left out of 10. But we boost for all those guys. Leo Chanel, I put it on Twitter. I just couldn't pass it up. You saw my tweet.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that this one hurts, I'll hug him at the reunion. But really, maybe, in my opinion, the most underrated player in this team over the past 2, maybe 3 years. So many big plays that you've forgotten about. We know that George recovered the fumble in the opening drive by San Francisco in Super Bowl 58, but it was Leo that forced the fumble. It was Leo that blocked the PAT in that game that made it a tieable game.
Changed everything.
Changed everything.
We forget about that.
We forget about him. And he'll be a great player. Glad he's going to the NFC.
Me too.
We don't play Washington, which I'm glad about. But anyway.
If he was on the Broncos or Bills or Bengals, I couldn't do it.
Nope.
I just couldn't do it.
I would be on this show like the guy that's on the reels. And we're really, really empathetic for those who had to deal with like hailstorms the size of softballs.
Yeah.
You see that in the Northland?
Oh, yeah.
And those of you that are listening and watching around the world, there was a vicious hailstorm right here in the capital city, the Chiefs Kingdom in the Northland. So I want to be sensitive to all of that. But still, I lost my train of thought. The
Leo,
man, to miss that guy, we're going to miss that guy.
Yeah.
And so,
but to your point, this is why we're so fortunate to have our front office because. Mm-hmm. Prior to the class of 2022, we've talked about this so many times. We were saying, hey, this is a great opportunity going into that draft with 10 draft picks to set ourselves up for a run in the future. And we did. Well, now we have a similar opportunity where we unfortunately have to say goodbye to a lot of those guys. And their legacy is here forever. I mean, they're forever Chiefs in my mind. Forever. When you win a championship.
No question.
I mean, you win 2 championships, you're a Chief for life. But now, with most of them no longer here, we have an opportunity with this draft to set ourselves up, and the McDuffie trade really does that. You mentioned Thornton. I want to talk about him a little bit because what a cool story that is. I think he is also a testament to the machine that is our front office because I think a lot of people forget that Tyquan was here in 2024 on the practice squad and was kind of just around the building. You call them crock pot guys. Now, he's a former second-round pick, so maybe he has a higher status than that, but still, he was just in the building, kind of getting acclimated, learning the playbook. And then he took full advantage of his opportunity in the offseason last year, had a killer training camp. And then what a season for him. I mean, 19 catches, 438 yards, 8 catches of at least 25 yards. Kind of seemed like all season, and it was a tough season, but especially early in the year, whenever we needed someone just to step up and make a play, it was like always him against the Giants, against the Broncos, in Denver. Like routinely, he made play after play. So glad he's back.
Yeah, no question. That play against the Giants is bigger than people think. That that helped flip that game, which was that Scatabo was still playing, and they were hard to beat on that night. Then Kelce coming back, we're sitting there kind of taking it for granted, like, oh, that might be the biggest story of all of this. And I really thought I would have lost money to all of you out there that I thought he was going to leave the last 2 years. And I'll have little casual conversations with him, and he was so melancholy at the end of 24, but really that way in the end of 25. I thought, man, he's not coming back. But what I've sensed from Kels, and I've not talked to him since, but what I've sensed is the farther away he gets, the closer he comes back.
Yeah.
And it's been that way now 2 years in a row. So for him to come back and to do it really at a brother-in-law rate, to help the salary cap out, to give it a shot. We get another year with him.
And I think there's something to be said for, he got here in 2013. Remember, the Chiefs were coming off a 2-14 season. Mm-hmm. Worst season in franchise history. He is not going to leave this place worse than he found it. And immediately everything changed when obviously Coach Reed got here, but also Kelce is a gigantic part of that. Been here for the entire run. It's one thing to say he can't leave after losing the Super Bowl. Like, that's one thing. I get that. But Travis Kelce can't leave after a 6-11 season. He can't, because he's going to leave this place better than he found it. So it says a lot about him. I'm so glad he's back. I mean, easy to forget what a great player he still is and how central to this team he still is. And I was reading an article with some quotes from his podcast, and it's so cool to me that he seems so energized for this year because of how last year went. Mentioning that Patrick feels the same way, like we are better than this. Like, we are going to make sure this franchise is back on track, and he feels that responsibility. I love that. So fired up. He's back. Let's get after it.
Yeah, 12,000 snaps, and he's 36 years old. He gets worn down. But for him to get away, that's what I'm saying. The farther he got away, the closer he came back because of kind of getting his mojo back, so to speak. So there's been a lot going on, a lot of excitement around the Chiefs Kingdom. And you talk about him coming back, there's a lot of tight ends in this draft. We'll talk about that in the succeeding episodes. But actually the tight ends really started to star at the Combine, and there's some depth there. So getting those extra picks that you alluded to now, to have 9 picks and to get that 5th and 6th in addition, don't overlook that you could get a player that can impact 2026, and it could be a tight end. And if you've got that current tight end room, but now you've got Kelce and somebody that you could mentor, but there are some really interesting tight ends that could fit this offensive system in this draft.
Yeah, definitely. And really across the board. I mean, we can't discount those day 3 picks because consistently that's where Brett Veach has made this team so good. I mean, even looking at just the class of 22 like we've been talking about, getting Jalen Watson in the 7th round, Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round, getting Leo Chanel in the 3rd round, go on and on. I mean, it's incredible what Brett has done in the later rounds. And, yeah, to get the extra 5th, to get a 6th round pick. And who knows? He might trade down and get some more of those picks. We'll see. But that's where he does his best work, I think. And over the years, this front office has just killed day 3. And having as many day 3 picks as possible. I know they're not as exciting as day 1 and 2, and we got to hit on those picks too. But day 3 for sure, really excited for it.
They're exciting when they show up on the field and win games
and Super Bowls.
And we didn't mention Super Bowls. We didn't mention Pacheco and Pop in the class of 22. I got sent a video. Someone sent me the picture of their niece in the fetal position, crying in her bed because Pacheco's gone. They had to give her little girl the message. She's probably 8 years old, and I'm just like, oh man, this would have been me at 8 years old. But that's why the class of 22 just won over the hearts and minds and souls of the Chiefs Kingdom. But we get ready now to move on, looking at today and looking at tomorrow. Okay. We talk about infrastructure. I love when we feature guys like Chris Shea and Mike Bradway that we had at the Combine, or down the line, Ryan Nutt. And we're going to talk to Tim Terry here. But before we do that, free agency in the National Football League, this is where fans – we can kind of go crazy, like, man, what do we get? What we didn't get, or what? Well, it's an ongoing process, and what this infrastructure, this regime has been able to do is get productivity, value, and impact where it doesn't wreck your cap. We have seen franchises completely obliterate their salary cap by making kind of quick, foolish, expensive moves that doesn't lead to the results that they wanted. So we thought, just to give you some examples, since Brett Veach took over, we're going to put some parameters on this. From that point in the summer of 2017 to now, kind of our favorite free agent move when you look at what it cost, the impact, and the value. And that gives you an idea as we go into Tim Terry, because there's a part of the Tim Terry interview that you have not thought of that leads to this discussion. So your thoughts. Let's say you're a top offensive free agent. Comes to mind. Value, productivity, impact.
On offense?
Yeah.
I'll go first? Okay. This is one of my favorite Chiefs of all time. It's Jerick McKinnon. and it kind of fits
I'm
exactly
going to hug
what you're
him at the
talking about.
reunion, too.
Yeah.
A lot of hugs at these reunions.
Jerick McKinnon was signed on April 30th in 2021. I remember the draft was going on. I think it was day 2 or 3. I mean, talk about like no fanfare around this at all. It's not like you always talk about how when free agency begins, it's like the New York Stock Exchange.
Oh, yeah.
Not at all. This is like at midnight, you're told like, hey, Jerick McKinnon's signing. And it's like, oh, okay.
Like the Viking guy? He's a Georgia Southern quarterback?
Like, I mean, what does he have left? Turns out a lot. We don't win the Super Bowl in 2022 without Jerick McKinnon. Like, no question. Probably don't win it in 2023 without him. Almost went to the Super Bowl in 2021 with him. This is
Single
my favorite.
most unselfish play.
Yeah.
I think in 33 years
yeah.
of me being the voice of the Chiefs, going down at the 1.
Church mode.
He can't tell his grandkids, I scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. I went down at the 1, which is a greater story for the great-grandkids and grandkids, but still.
Yeah. No, and even just the wherewithal. Yeah. I mean, we've seen it over the years in big games where you're supposed to go down, but you just don't, because your entire life you've been told to go after the end zone, and you're in the Super Bowl and all this, and you're like, it'll be fine. I mean, who knows what happens in that game if Jerick doesn't go down. So, yeah, I mean, the football intelligence. Also just such a great player. This is my favorite Jerick stat. It's just hilarious to me. In 2022, he had 9 receiving touchdowns, and most of them were in the back half of the year. I remember kind of putting it into context back then. He was tied with Jamar Chase for the most receiving touchdowns in the league since like week 8 or something. I mean, just hilarious. Jerick was so good for this team. Felt like kind of like with Tyquan when I was talking about him earlier. Whenever we needed a spark, whenever he was here, he would be that guy. Like, remember the game against the Raiders? We were down 17-0, like out of nowhere, and it's like, are we going to lose to the Raiders at home on Monday Night Football? And it was 3rd down. And Jerick wasn't the biggest guy, but we handed the ball off, and he ran for like 18 yards, just dragging tacklers with him, and we never looked back. Like so many 3rd and 20s, he'd catch a screen, make 10 guys miss. Nick Bosa crashes into somebody else, and we end up winning that game. Just could go on and on. Jerick McKinnon was an awesome signing, and a good example of how, even though it wasn't like a big deal at the time, you never know when you get a guy in here what they can do inside your culture.
And now he's become a reference point because we hope Brashard Smith can become him.
Yeah.
Okay. And it'll be a big year, hopefully, for Brashard Smith. But we go, can he be a Jerick McKinnon? So he's so good that he became a reference point.
You're a benchmark.
So
you're Neil Armstrong. Can you be? Yeah.
Can you walk on the moon? We will hug you at the reunion, but man, fond memories. Mine is Joe Thuney.
Oh, yeah.
When you think about Joe Thuney, signed on March the 17th, so he's part of the frenzy then. The calendar was a week later at that point. But on March 17th, so St. Paddy's Day in 2021, we get Joe Thuney from the New England Patriots, where he had won Super Bowl. But a 5-year, $80 million deal. So look at it in terms of like $15 million a year. Expensive for linemen at the time? Well, I don't know. Would you pay that for a 5-time Pro Bowler here, 3-time Pro Bowler here, 2-time All-Pro first team? Record in the regular season, 51 wins and 15 losses, 9-2 in the playoffs, and he had 4 sacks in 66 regular season games, 4 sacks allowed. And then his move to tackle. We do not get to Super Bowl 59 if he does not move to tackle. And he was not a tackle, he's a guard, and we saw that. I gave the analogy of wrestling. I love high school and college wrestling, but it's the 167-pound wrestler that has to wrestle 185. And he got to state, but then you're wrestling the state champion 185, and he got pinned. But Joe Thuney is one of the most impactful, I think, value. This was not overpaying for a guy. And then his influence as well to be a part of 2 Super Bowl championships and the attempt to run it back.
Joe's a Hall of Famer, right?
Pro Football Hall of Famer.
Yeah, think about it. Like, he's a Pro Football Hall of Famer. And even in his 1 year in Chicago so far, wins Protector of the Year. He's a Hall of Famer. It's incredible. All the guy does is win wherever he goes. Doesn't get enough credit, to your point, for playing left tackle for us the back half of 24 because of how it ended in the Super Bowl. That wasn't all on Joe. That was a collective effort.
Yep.
We don't get to the Super Bowl, even close to it, without Joe Thuney that year. Doesn't get credit for playing left tackle against the Bills in the AFC Championship game, or the Texans in the divisional round with Will Anderson Jr. and Daniil Hunter on the other side. Yeah, I mean, that's one of those signings that you hope works out, right? Like during the frenzy, you're paying this guy for future performance to be a Hall of Famer at that position, and it worked out better than I think any of us could ever have expected. I think it's a fun juxtaposition because you can hit home runs early on in free agency, like with Joe, and you can also do it later, like with Jarek.
Yeah, perfect. All right, you're defensive free agent.
Is it fair for me to go first here? Do you want to go first?
You can go first.
Okay. Well, how about another one of my favorite Chiefs ever, Tyrann Mathieu?
Oh, yeah.
I think this is good in the context of the Kenneth Walker signing, too, because we're bringing Kenneth Walker here to change the culture of the running back room, to bring some juice, to bring some energy, to be that guy. When we brought Tyrann Mathieu in way back in 2019, that was the same mandate. Is, hey, we got so close to the Super Bowl the prior year in 2018, but we need to have like a change of identity on defense. And we brought in Tyrann Mathieu and traded for Frank Clark. And Tyrann was just the ultimate leader. He changed the defense, changed it along with Spags. And we don't win the Super Bowl in 2019 without Tyrann Mathieu. And such an amazing guy and story. And it's kind of cool. Now that he's retired, he's kind of back in Chiefs Kingdom now. We had him on Field Pass last year. But Tyrann Mathieu is one of those guys that I think was a cap casualty when we got him. He was just a cap casualty, and he was out there, and all the wizards on Twitter are like, there's not enough money. And then before you know it, Tyrann Mathieu was a Chief. Worked out pretty well.
Yep. Kind of Tooney as well was a little bit of a cap casualty for New England at the time. So my defensive player is Justin Reed. Now, there's something about St. Patrick's Day, because it was St. Patrick's Day just a year later. Remember, Joe Tooney was signed on March 17, 2021. To your point, changing culture, after 21, there was the sour taste of losing the AFC Championship game to the Bengals and not getting key stops of trying to get them off the field. That was a winnable game. We were up 21-10.
The ultimate steering wheel pounder, yes.
Absolutely. But Justin Reed came in on March 17th, St. Patty's Day of 2022. Now, in his time here in Kansas City, so back-to-back Super Bowl championships, but 39-10 was his regular season record in his 49 games. And then in the playoffs, 9-1 with 2 Super Bowl titles and then an attempt to win 3 in a row. I remember the heartbreak I felt, not only getting blown out by the Eagles, but near the end of the game, Justin knew, again, cap situation, he was not going to be back. I saw him hug everybody around the defense as the seconds ticked down. And just a phenomenal person. He'll be governor of probably 2 states someday and maybe president of the United States. Tough guy, smart guy, great guy. The value, he signed a 3-year deal for $31.5 million, so basically $11 million a year, less than that. And so it wasn't an overall, and $20 million of it was guaranteed. So it wasn't like this oppressive, oh my God, how are we going to, we paid too much for Justin Reed. No, that was a bargain to get that guy. Still with the Saints. I'll hug him at a reunion, but really had an impact on and off the field, very much like a McDuffie in a way.
He signed a 3-year contract here and went to the Super Bowl every year.
Every year.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, that's a good one.
So, with that in mind, one of the guys that we don't think about a lot, who has been here now for a long time, but he is our vice president for pro personnel and very key in trying to make decisions when it comes to free agency on value, on performance, and impact. Here's our chat at the Combine with Tim Terry. We're covering all the gamuts of the Chiefs front office now. A very, very valuable man that has been a part of 3 Super Bowl championships, Tim Terry. Super Bowl champions with the Chiefs. Great career. But, Tim, we get so caught up in the college guys and getting ready for the Combine. What about the pro side and what the Combine means for you?
This pro side is a combination of both. You know, obviously we're going to see the college players and see those guys perform and see the agents and all those different things. But also, you know, you get a chance, your first opportunity to maybe see some of the colleagues across the league that may have some players that may be available via trade or those type things. But you know, just really just the starting point of the free agency period where we'll have the negotiating period in a few weeks. So you kind of see what things may be matriculating in your favor.
One thing I always found kind of interesting is you're still involved in all this prospect evaluation because they're about to be pros, right? And do you recall a time where maybe you liked a prospect a lot, didn't work out in the draft, but years later they ended up on the Chiefs and you kind of relied on that information you learned here?
Yes, that's a great point. I think, we go through the whole process. Our college scouts do a great job of getting all the character information, the background information. You watch the tape. And sometimes guys drafted higher or go to another team or it doesn't work out. We've had that opportunity to bring some guys that maybe didn't get the first bite and get them in the second round, whether it be in free agency, street free agency, or as a UFA. But the college process is important for the foundation of what the players are going to do as they enter into the league. And so you have a little baseline of who they are. Obviously, they change as they become young men into men and pros. So, but it's a good baseline to start.
I've always found that fascinating because Brett will reference it or Coach will reference it and say, if we sign a free agent, well, this is what we saw way back when he was a – so it's not like you throw these files away, right? How big is that, though, when you look back at some of your evaluation to decide what you're going to do in free agency?
It's a part of it. So you can't base everything on what they were because some of these guys come into the league and they become better players. They mature. They develop faster or better than you thought. And some guys may regress or don't matriculate to what you think they could be. So you use it, again, as a tool, as a reference point to kind of how you have about background of the person. Then you'll see if they're in the league 3 or 4 years, what has their body of work been in those 3 or 4 years on the field and off the field. So it kind of helps. But it's not a one-all, be-all because, obviously, as we know, people change. They used to have hair.
So the new league year is coming up. Onset of free agency, obviously a very big time for you. We talk with the college scouting guys, and they explain how they kind of chart this stuff out years in advance for the prospects. Do you have a similar process in terms of free agency, kind of knowing who will be available each year?
Yeah. Obviously, at the beginning of the year, you kind of have an idea of whose contracts will be expiring, so you kind of baseline that piece of it. Throughout the year, players will get extended, and some players will not. Some players will get cut prematurely. So we have our scouts watch all the players that are going to be free agents, the restricted free agents and unrestricted free agents. A lot of times those things change and they don't become hit free agency. There'd be also guys that become cap casualties, as you kind of see around the league. And we get our Chris Shea and his crew, they do a nice job of kind of forecasting what that could potentially be. So we use that as well, and we kind of watch those guys, we evaluate them, and we put a grade on them. Similar to how we do with the draft board, we'll have guys ranked from blue A-plus players to guys that we may not be perfect fits for what we're trying to do from a culture or offensive decent standpoint. So we watch all the guys, we catalog all the guys with grades, and we'll let the process of free agency play out and see where we are.
Tim Cherry with us, Pro Personnel Vice President. Looking at this free agent class, the 2026 free agent class, what's your overall evaluation of it?
A lot of talent. There's a lot of talent. It's going to be a lot of money spent around the league. But it's a lot of talented players. You see skilled players that are really good. On the perimeter and the backfield. Defensively, there are some players at the corner position that are really talented, linebackers. So there's a lot of talent, and there's a lot of talent that may not be the household names. So that's why we count on our scouts and our department to really make sure we know everybody that's going to be entering this phase of the player acquisition period, because you may not be a day one guy that's going to impact what you do. From a free agency standpoint, you could be a week 2 guy. Jared McKinnick a few years ago.
Yeah.
He came in and he did a really phenomenal job for us. Not always you're going to have the Frank Clark, Tyron Matthew blockbuster type deals. But I think you want to get the right people in your building, particularly with free agency. It's not what you want to live and die by, but it's a part of our process. Obviously, the draft is the lifeblood of what we're trying to do, get young talent in the building, but also you want to supplement that with some fine players that can bring specific skill sets to our team.
You have to be able to be on your toes in your position because, like you said earlier, there are players that right now we think are going to be free agents, but they're going to be re-signed. They might be franchise tagged, all the different things that can happen. How do you and your crew kind of stay flexible with all your different options, knowing that things could change any day?
Yeah, every day's a new day, right? So I think the biggest thing is just being prepared. You do all the work. You get ahead of things as they become. Like I said, we'll watch every player for every team. We'll evaluate each team's roster and particularly the AFC West, where we rank. We need to get better, or we're a little worse at. So you try to get a good feel for the league in general, and then as players start to become free agents that may not have been on your radar early, you have a good idea of the player skill set. But then we'll dig in deeper as that comes a little closer and see if it's a good fit.
Final question, Tim, and it deals with value, because you just said a couple of answers ago there's going to be a lot of money spent around. I always get a kick out of fans. I said it's like the Friday before Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving going shopping.
Yeah.
How do you be careful in value, getting the right player at the right price, and not doing it where it gets your salary cap in a problem?
Yeah, you don't want to be doing anything out of need. It's like I always say, you go to the supermarket hungry, you're going to spend a lot of wasteful money. So you don't want to do that. You got to be intentional about what we do. We understand and realize where we are as an organization, where we may have had some shortfalls. So you got to be honest in that assessment. The draft, I said, is a big piece of it, and you can't project who's going to be there specifically when you're picking. So you want to be able to get the right people in free agency that can help us to get to where we want to be in February.
A huge piece of the puzzle of Chiefs winning, Tim Terry. Tim's an impressive guy. I love him. Love his attitude, the way he approaches his work. But one thing that's fascinating there is the fact that, like at the Combine, why is he at the Combine? Why does he care about the draft? The files don't go away on these guys. And so when you circle back to look at them and a potential, if Alohi Gilman, Kyrus Tonga, we can go down, we're going to talk about these guys a little bit, but Tim Terry is the guy that, I mean, he keeps an eye on all these guys around the league, so when it comes free agent time, he's got a fairly good idea of what these guys are about.
I think it's cool that he makes that part of his job. It seems so obvious that the entire front office would go to the Combine, but if you look around the league, there are some teams that don't send anyone to the Combine. They just don't value it. And I guess I understand that.
I don't understand.
I guess it doesn't really make much sense to me. But it makes a lot of sense that the college and draft guys would go to the Combine, right? But for Tim Terry to be like, this is worth my time because maybe down the road we'll be interested in a guy as a free agent, and I'll have a whole hard drive of conversations or interviews or just stuff on this guy. It's valuable, and I think it's paid dividends over the years where free agents that we've talked about, like Jerick McKinnon or Joe Tooney or Tyrann Mathieu, Justin Reed, they all probably talked to the Chiefs at some point during the scouting process. And for Tim Terry to be a part of those conversations is a big deal when down the line, it's like, he really impressed me back then. And based on what he's done in the time since, he'd be a great fit for our team. Like, that's cool. And that means something, I think. So it says a lot about him.
Yeah, he was taking notes. We're going to get to Kenneth Walker III here, and everybody's waiting for that, as you and I are. But you look at Alohi Gilman, kind of mentioned him already. He's been a very productive player for the Chargers, a little bit with the Ravens. And then Kyrus Tonga, he's a guy that with a two-gap approach, large human, really athletic, a two-gap guy that has one-gap capabilities, if that would be a way to describe him.
Definitely. I'm excited about both of these guys. With Gilman, it's his versatility. Mm-hmm. So I think if you had to put him at one spot, he'd be a really solid free safety, which we could use.
Yep.
We've had a lot of strong safety types. We could use a free safety kind of guy, and that's what he is. He's also really versatile, though. Over the years, even look at just last year with the Ravens, he played slot corner for them at times. He was in the box, could play on the line of scrimmage, could play wide corner in a pinch. And what's kind of interesting, if you look at Baltimore, he opened things up for Kyle Hamilton when he went to Baltimore last year, mid-season, where Hamilton was playing kind of a different role. And then when Gilman got there, he could play that free safety role and let Hamilton be that jack of all trades. Mm-hmm. Kind of interested to see how Spags uses him, but he can do a little bit of everything, which is a big deal. And then,
he did a little bit of that for Derwin James Jr. with the Chargers.
Exact. Great point. Yeah, definitely. And then Tonga's exciting because I think we just need some energy and juice on the defensive front. Mm-hmm. He definitely fits the bill in that regard. The guy's 335 pounds. I think he's like a classic kind of nose tackle type who can also play your two-gap and all that. 337 defensive snaps last year, 17 defensive stops, 14 pressures, and the top run stop percentage on the Patriots would have led the Chiefs as well in run stop percentage, which I think we could use. And 14 snaps at fullback, which is fun. The whole thing reminds me of Dontari Poe, and I think that's great.
Yeah, it would be fun to have Hungry Pig is passing come back again.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm excited about that more than maybe most. I know Austin Witter's excited about
Very excited,
but
yeah.
he loves the trenches. We're also excited about getting Kenneth Walker III. Did not think this was in the cards. He had obviously an incredible run during the playoffs, great Super Bowl. But he go all the way back to his start at Wake Forest. I went back and looked at his college tape and his information there, and then what he did. The longest run in Michigan State history, by the way, 94 yards. Got off to a great start in his rookie year in Seattle, being an early second-round pick. Then had some injury issues, but came roaring back, and then split time with Charbonnet last year. But it's been a long time since we've had a back like this.
Yeah.
So, and I got excited about his passing numbers in the fact that he can be a weapon in the receiving game.
What exactly were the coaches at Wake Forest thinking? Trying to
Don't
understand
know.
that one.
What were we doing there?
I can't give him consistent touches.
Yeah.
I'm excited about the pass game, too. He doesn't get enough credit for that. He can catch the ball and make guys miss after he catches it. For me,
that's the big one, because I know you're going to those stats, but those
Yeah.
broken tackles, when you look at it, we've not had a tackle breaker like that since Kareem in his prime.
yeah, it's everything. So I think the reason I'm excited about Walker is three-pronged. So the first is consistent production. He's recorded at least 1,000 scrimmage yards in 3 of his 4 seasons. Only year he didn't is because he was hurt.
Yep.
He would have if he had stayed on the field. Then it's the broken tackles. So he broke 61 tackles last year, picking up 664 yards after contact. That's been a trend for him. Over the last 3 years, he ranked either first or second in the NFL in missed tackles forced per carry. That'll get you excited. Never goes down at first contact. And when you're doing that, it naturally leads to explosive plays. This dude's explosive. So he had 33 runs of 10 or more yards last year, 6th most in the NFL. And keep in mind, he was sharing carries. So he actually had an explosive run rate just under 15%. That was 3rd best in the NFL. 10 runs of at least 20 yards last year. For context, the Chiefs as a team had just 3 runs of 20 yards. He had 10 all by himself. So even just the threat of Kenneth Walker is going to help this entire offense. We talked over the last several months that maybe the number one priority, especially offensively, is we had to get better in terms of our explosiveness in the running game. Had to, because I think it impacted everything else. I talked about our play-action passing and how that struggled last season. We had the fewest play-action passing yards of any team in the NFL. What? Well, why is that? It's because the opponent is not respecting the explosiveness of your running game. Well, now you had Kenneth Walker. They have to respect it, because if they want to just play deep and not respect your running game, Kenneth Walker will break off a 25-yard run, and they have to respect it. So obviously, Kenneth is going to help us in the running game as it is, but he's also going to help us in the play-action passing game and the passing game in general, because Patrick Mahomes has a guy in the backfield that can make a 20-yard run out of nothing, and that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I loved looking at those stats about the broken tackles and yards after catch, but I'm going to add a couple more too. If he gets 100 yards of rush, some guys can pile up stats, but it doesn't affect the game.
Sure.
He's only lost 1 game where he's rushed for 100 yards. And the other thing that's big is he does it in the biggest games. You look at their showdown games against the Rams, including the playoffs. I mean, those were wars this year.
Yeah.
You could argue those were the 2 best teams in the NFL when the Seahawks played the Rams. And that's when he did, if you look at Kenneth's career there, the biggest games, he came up with the biggest moments. And a 64-yard reception, when we talk about his passing, receiving prowess or what he brings. So to a big-time, big play potential back to this offense is something, frankly, we haven't had since Kareem Hunt in 2017 and early 2018. We got the chance to talk to a Super Bowl MVP not named Mahomes, Kenneth Walker III. When the Chiefs start OTAs and start training camp, there will be 2 Super Bowl MVPs on its roster, not just Patrick Mahomes, but this young man, as Ken Walker joins the Chiefs Kingdom. First of all, congrats on a great run. Congrats on being MVP of the Super Bowl. And congrats on being here. Your reaction of all of that?
I would say it's surreal. All of it's happening kind of fast, but it's a blessing to be here. Me and my pops talked it over, and we talked about how this is where I wanted to be, and it happened. So it's a blessing for real.
So Ken, amazing run to go win the Super Bowl last year. The expectation here in Kansas City every year nowadays with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback is to go to the Super Bowl and to hopefully win it. How do you think that experience going to the Super Bowl last year with the Seahawks can help you with your time here?
Yeah, I feel like I know what it takes. You know what I'm saying? I know guys here know what it takes too, because they won plenty of Super Bowls. So yeah, it's cool to be over here. The winning culture and the competitiveness of the guys. So I'm excited, and I'm excited to get to meet everyone.
How about integrating into the offense and integrating what Coach Reed and working with Pat and Kelce and the others? What about that attitude and physically?
I see it on film the way those guys play. They're real detailed and smart, and I'm excited to be able to come in here and play with EB. I'll talk to him a lot, and how intense he is. It's cool to see, and how passionate he is.
So you're a broken tackle machine. Like, you're never going down at first contact. Where does that mentality come from?
I just growing up, working out with my pops, and him telling me not to go down off the first tackle, and I always want to make the first guy miss. I want to make everybody miss, but I just feel like that's my mentality going in there, and my competitive drive.
What's awesome, Ken, is the fact that your biggest games have been at the biggest moments. What have you learned about this league? And being able to succeed over a long, tough season, and when the games are the biggest?
Controlling what I can control, honestly. That's what I've been learning over time, and find my routine. But, yeah, the main thing is really just control what I can control and be positive.
You had a chance to chat with Patrick at all yet?
Yeah. We we called, and then we ended up meeting today. I seen him earlier this morning. It was cool to get to meet him finally.
Now, you were here on Christmas Eve, 2022,
That's
as
right.
a Seahawk, and you hit it for 107. What about your anticipation about playing at Arrowhead?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm knowing the crowd's gonna be loud. I'm on a different side now. I was with Seattle at the time, but yeah, it's cool to be able to go out there for my first time and see everybody and the fans cheering.
So you're so explosive as a runner. We talked about breaking all those tackles. Then you hit like another gear at the second level. Where does that come from, that explosiveness?
I guess just working out my pops. I guess that I don't know. I had it since I was younger, coming on up, and it just got better over time.
We're fired up about it.
Oh, man. And watching you grow, because you were here as a rookie, but you've grown in the passing game. What's happened there to make you a weapon in the passing game? Short catches, tackle breaking, or longer passes?
I really believe it's just opportunity. Some schemes the backs don't get the ball as much. Like, coming out of college, I didn't really get the ball passed to me as much. So when a coach sees that I can catch, they give me opportunities, and I can go out there and make those plays.
How about football culture and how important that is to you? Because you're coming to a place that loves football in Kansas City.
Yeah, that's big for me. Obviously, like you said, it's culture here, and I think that's big for everybody that's going to be in the locker room to have that culture and that brotherhood and that camaraderie together, and it'll make a difference.
It is thrilling to have you here. What would you tell the Chiefs Kingdom to get them really fired up as you get ready to roll?
Just get ready for another Super Bowl run.
Love the sound of that.
We'll get you another ring.
Yeah.
Again, another Super Bowl MVP has joined the Kansas City Chiefs, Ken Walker. Again, it's Happy New Year. We've got our confetti out here. But this is just the excitement confetti of having Kenneth Walker III. This is none of the Super Bowl 60 confetti that fell on his head.
Well, we had this conversation right afterward where Kenneth Walker is one of the players that was kind of on our wish list. Like, man, it'd be great to have Kenneth Walker. But the way he finished the year and winning Super Bowl MVP, I think I told you the day after the Super Bowl, I'm like, well, we could probably cross him off. That's not going to happen. What do you know? Here we are.
But it's you and I wanting our own helicopter,
Yeah.
right? It's not going to happen.
Private jet.
It's private jet. Like, I'd like to have a private jet with it. No, but it's here. So it's kind of fun, though, because when we go to camp, if Pat's up and running healthy, we'll have two Super Bowl MVPs from two different teams on the roster. I know you were thinking about it. I was thinking about it going, it brings back some memories here. We had Joe Montana, who was Super Bowl MVP with San Francisco, and Marcus Allen, Super Bowl MVP with the Raiders at the same time. But you've got some more that I thought were really interesting because you thought the same thing. Right?
Yeah.
You went down a rabbit hole, though.
Well, I was thinking this must not happen very often. Like, when was the last time this happened? So I reached out to the good people at the Elias Sports Bureau. It actually happens a little bit more than you think, and it's so random. So Julian Edelman and Tom Brady both won Super Bowl MVP. Not
Same
quite
team.
the same, though. They're on the same team, so that's a little bit different. Same with like John Elway and Terrell Davis. The most random one, well, there's two very random ones. So on the Broncos, Von Miller and Joe Flacco. We got 2 Super Bowl MVPs. I think Flacco lasted like 4 games that season. That was the year that I think that was actually the game that Pat got hurt. But we had like 8 sacks, and Flacco looked just like a corpse.
Yeah.
And then who knew he had like 10 more years in him and going to the playoffs. But his Broncos career was not necessarily a super exciting one.
That's not one I would have guessed.
Yeah, the Jags is the craziest one, though.
The Jags.
The Jags had Nick Foles and Malcolm Smith, which I completely forgot Malcolm Smith was a Super Bowl MVP. He was kind of like accepting it on behalf of the entire Seahawks defense.
Yeah.
But he was on the Jags with Nick Foles, and they had 2 Super Bowl MVPs.
He had a pick 6, I think, or 2 maybe. I don't
so,
know.
yeah.
Something crazy. But, yeah, there you go. So take that to the water cooler.
I think ours is a little bit more impressive.
A little bit.
Stick with that.
But, hey, you want to have some fun with your gals or guys throughout the whole world of kingdom defending and have that one. But we will have 2 Super Bowl MVPs in camp this year wearing red, white, and gold. We'll also have some more free agents. So just stay tuned on this Happy New Year Defending the Kingdom.